Hello everyone, welcome to the Zonda Wine Podcast. Today I'm here with Jancis Robinson here in London. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Pleasure.
Jancis Robinson, whether you know her or you don't know her, many, if not everyone in the wine industry knows her. You're on the Mount Rushmore.
As old as Mount Rushmore. Been around as long.
But when we talk about the most important influential wine figures today, you're certainly up there. With other English counterparts, we think of people like Harry Waugh, who we were just talking about, Michael Broadbent, people in the
Hugh Johnson,
and people who have made serious impacts on the industry today. And yeah, so you've been writing wine for a short amount of time, 50 years?
50 years on the 1st of December, 2025.
Wow, 50 years of wine writing, and that's why her words carry such meaning. And you also own, or you did start Jancis Robinson.
And that, by coincidence, celebrates its 25th anniversary on the same day.
25th anniversary. Yeah. And JancisRobinson.com, that was sort of a culmination of what you've done before?
Yeah, well, it was frustrating to me before starting the website because I had such great tasting opportunities and I was amassing just piles of tasting notes that were unused because I had a newspaper column and I was writing reference books, but those tasting notes didn't fit into either of those.
Exactly.
And it seemed such a waste. And I'm from the north of England and we're very frugal. Mm-hmm. In the north of England, and waste not, want not.
We're in the north
mantra.
Waste not, want not.
Yeah.
Where in the north of England are we?
So just north of the Lake District, nearly Scotland.
Okay.
A little village of 40 people.
North of Sheffield.
North.
Okay.
Oh yeah, way north of Sheffield.
Okay.
Heaven's sake. No, nearly Scotland. And I just thought, here is something a place to share everything that I learn, but that I don't have room for in my columns or my books and my tasting notes. Mm-hmm. And of course, for a control freak, it has the great advantage of publication without interference from an editor or a publisher, and immediate. You know, the minute you've written it, you can publish it, which is great.
That freedom must have been huge.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, huge, and no editor, no director for television or anything like that. Yeah, it was very satisfying.
Well, back when I worked at Wine Spectator, the frustrating part is you write your article and you're like, wow, and then all of a sudden it has to go through 4 or 5 eyeballs and all that. So that must have been freeing. So starting JancisRobinson.com. Obviously, the technology, the website, was it something that people were like, you have to do this, and you were like, or you wanted to do it?
Well, having started in 2000, of course, was when everyone woke up to the possibilities of the internet, and a huge number of business people came to me with a proposal, because of course they had no content. They just had a business plan. I had content coming out of my ears, and I finally decided on which person to go with, but that didn't work out. But the website JancisRobinson.com was already mentioned on the jacket of my forthcoming book. So it had to exist.
Okay, it forced you to,
And so it started in a very, very modest way. I was the only contributor for quite some time. And that I did it with this lovely guy, Bob Brooks, who advised us on which computer to buy. I mean, that's how, untechy it was to a certain extent. And he was lovely, sorted out eventually after a year, I thought, I'm spending so much time on this, I can't do it for nothing.
Yeah.
And so thought, I'll have a subscription aspect of it, just a bit of it. And he worked out how to do the subscriptions, but couldn't work out, the subscriptions had to be for a whole calendar year. He couldn't work out how to do it,
Exactly. So it had to be.
So it was quite amateur to begin with.
Yeah. You bring up a very good point, and I think a lot of wine writers and people in the industry, it's it's not easy to make a living in wine.
Oh,
It's
no,
very difficult. And
very, very difficult.
before getting into wine, I was an actor. I was an
gosh.
acting.
Well, there's another
exactly.
hiding to
So,
nothing.
well, so paying the bills is hard enough, and then I went into wine because it was paying the bills, and then I realized, it's not easy. So. You talk about, you can't just donate your tasting notes. This is really hard work.
But nowadays, of course, with so much content online being given away free, that's really quite difficult for people starting out. I mean, I was lucky because my career has sort of coincided with the world falling in love with wine. And everything was growing, newspapers wanted a wine columnist, publishers wanted to publish wine books.
Yeah.
So I managed to, and TV producers were asking me to present programs and things. So I sort of established my reputation before things started to close down a bit.
Exactly.
And people were expecting you to donate content.
Yeah, no, it's very frustrating, and the Miami Herald, being from Miami, doesn't have a wine columnist anymore. They had one before, so it's a little more difficult. And similar to acting, all the actors get very frustrated at the actors who work for free.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden they're out of work, and it's work that should be
rewarded.
Yes. Going back to what you've done before, you've done the Oxford Companion of Wine, which is it's the Bible of wine. I read through that, and the first thing I think of is, what is this person's work ethic? And I know you had contributors. I know you worked on it with Hugh Johnson, who's...
Hugh Johnson and I co-authored the World Atlas of Wine.
The World Atlas of Wine.
So Hugh actually didn't have anything to do with the Oxford Companion to Wine, except he did write the entry on his mentor, Andre Simon.
Okay, yes, that. And but going to these projects, you claim to be a workaholic.
I have to admit that, and I'm very lucky because my husband allows me to be a workaholic and sort of brings me tea and cooks all my meals and buys all the food, and so I'm indulged in that respect.
It's good to have an amazing and patient partner in that instance, and whenever opportunities come up, it's sort of a conversation between both of you, right? Like, can I do a podcast on a Sunday morning instead of all this? But what were those early days like where you really had to prove yourself and to write an incredible amount of work to show I'm serious about this?
Well, I suppose for me it was quite interesting because I started in '75 on a wine trade publication. 1980 I went freelance because I was offered a wine column in the Sunday Times, which is Britain's biggest posh paper.
And you also write for Financial Times today?
Now I do. From 1989 I've worked for them.
Got it.
And in the early 80s, and I had written a couple of books in the early 80s, but I was approached to do several high-profile television series in the 80s. So I actually became known more as a television person than as a writer, because at that stage, there were just terrestrial channels, and if you were on one of them, half the population saw you, sort of thing.
It's a lot of power.
And I was in danger of being cast as a sort of popularizer, someone who doesn't really know about wine but can talk about it on TV.
Yeah.
And then, because I'd done well in the WSET diploma exams, the Masters of Wine, who suddenly decided to open up the exam to people who weren't actually in the trade, approached me to say, why don't you have a go?
Yeah.
And I thought, maybe that will show that I really know my stuff if I pass.
Exactly.
And so in 1984, I did the Master of Wine exams and passed amazingly, and thought, oh, well, if you're a wine writer, maybe you do automatically pass.
Yeah.
But even so, that was a kind of stamp of credentials, if you like.
That showed that I can do this. I can go into
I'm
this.
serious about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it was quite a nice compliment to the popularizing thing of putting wine on television.
Yeah, and Master of Wine, it's the highest honor you can get.
It's tricky, and it's got trickier because as the wine world has expanded and got more complex.
The books get thicker every year, right?
No, I'm sure I couldn't pass it today, but I had a fair wind behind me in '84.
I would definitely bet that you could.
I'd have to work very hard.
But what I love is that you're very involved in educating the next generation of wine writers, wine drinkers, and people who are curious about wine. I took the diploma and I passed it 2 years ago, and there were lawyers or doctors,
yes,
or anyone.
It's great that wine is such a popular subject.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you are currently the honorary president at Diploma, or
I was. They have 3-year stint for an honorary president of the Wine and Spirit Education Trust.
So you were
and I followed Michael Broadbent.
Okay.
And handed over to the lovely but late Gérard Basset, who was a great sommelier who ended up being a master of wine, a master sommelier, MBA, and OBE, which is a kind of national honor that
incredible.
I got to.
And we also, I just spoke to Romain Basset, his son,
yes.
and they have the Golden Vines every year happening in different cities. So stay tuned for that story as well. So that's all incredible of just showing.
Exhausting.
Exhausting.
When I look at what I did in the 1980s, which included having 2 children and moving and completely renovating a large house and making several television series and writing several books. I honestly can't imagine how I did it. But one difference from today was there was no email. So you weren't constantly needing to reply and that kind of thing. You know, when you were filming, you were just...
You could spend 3-4 hours solid in your room. There's no Instagram. There's none of that stuff. Do you like social media? Or?
I'm afraid I'm not very good at it. No.
Okay.
I used to do Twitter and no longer.
Got it. But going back to that, having kids, having a family, I got my first kid on the way, due in January. Thank you. So growing the family, but again, these are big stressors of life and work, and when your passion is in your work, it's very difficult. What was this? Were your parents hard workers? Do you come from a family of hard
Funnily enough,
workers?
it's a funny question. It's an interesting one. My father, although he was the only one who technically had a job, definitely wasn't one of life's workers. He was very, very charming, but no, not very keen on work. My mother, who trained as an illustrator and before getting married did 1 or 2 paid commissions, worked terribly hard, even though she didn't have a job. She always had some project going, and she was always at the kitchen table drawing or sewing or painting or doing the garden. It's funny, isn't it?
Exactly. Just everything that has to get done, and that is hard work.
Yeah, I think I've inherited her work ethic. Yeah.
Okay, I love it. And you've hopefully passed that on to your
My
family
children
as well.
are very hard workers, actually.
Are they in wine or no?
The oldest is a teacher, works incredibly hard in the public system.
It's a very honorable job. It's the same in the US.
And our younger daughter is now in events management, and she works very hard. And our son is the one who's closest to wine. He has taken after his father and is a restaurateur, and now has 5 very successful restaurants in London, and is increasingly interested in wine. Is very interested in wine now. The girls taste very well, but much to my chagrin, refuse to drink red wine.
No. Yeah. So family dinners, there's white wine.
I love white wine.
Okay.
But I just think, why? I mean, red wine's so lovely too.
It's so funny. Like, be interested in this.
Well, I did. I doubted my older daughter's prejudice against red wine, and on a family holiday, I blindfolded her and gave her a red and a white and see if she could tell the difference.
Okay.
And I chose, a Pinot Noir and a Chardonnay, which is the closest you could possibly get. and she could tell the difference.
She could tell that.
Yeah, so
had to give you're saying like in a black glass or something like that?
No, I literally tied something around.
Okay, there we go. Okay, much easier that way. And she could tell the difference there. Okay, so great tasters, and it's just, it also makes it easy that they're all close by, or do they live in different areas?
No, they live very close by, and we have so many, most weekends we get together here,
Amazing.
which is lovely.
That's
very,
beautiful.
very lucky.
That's
and
beautiful.
with 6 grandchildren too, so that's all lovely.
Amazing.
Yeah. And we go on holiday together, 14 of us, which is quite a production.
Yeah, and going back to, having a family and being here in London, you ended up selling JancisRobinson.com?
I did. When I got to 70, and that's the sort of age when you can get some horrible diagnosis of something that will really, put you out of work.
The danger zone of age.
And I thought, really, I owe it. By that stage, I had quite a team, and I thought I owed it to the team to have a long-term future. And I also thought, having taken practically no salary out of JancisRobinson.com, it would be quite nice to be rewarded for so many years' work.
Earlier, yes,
20 years' work nearly at that stage. And I really wanted to, I thought the most obvious place to expand the membership would be the US, because there's no language problem and stuff. So I was looking specifically for an American buyer. And we ended up with 9 serious bids, which was good. And I chose a publisher of many different titles. But about a year ago, the ex-CEO of that company, who was the wine lover in that company, and had always absolutely loved JancisRobinson.com, and I think probably was the one who persuaded them to bid for us, he took it over, which is lovely to have someone who really loves wine in charge.
I think it's one of the hardest decisions in life as a business owner to select who can pass that torch or help improve it, because things can go south very easily in that. And luckily, like, all the decisions you made have been very good, all the way from building out your team, Samantha Cole-Johnson.
Yeah,
right?
so we've got such a good team, and it's so serendipitous, really. I mean, Tam Curran is one of our very popular writers. She just came on board to literally upload tasting notes and word process, and she's great. And then Julia Harding, who was our first writer, as well as me, came top in the Master of Wine exams and all that kind of thing, was a copy editor. And a great wine lover and a linguist. So, I mean, she also contributes hugely. It's just, and then we've got people all around the world.
Yeah, one of them in New York, Tara Thomas.
Yeah, well, she's our managing editor.
Okay, managing editor.
She worked for 25 years running wine and spirits.
Yes.
And now Josh Green, who founded Wine and Spirits, he's also on the team.
Okay.
And what's lovely for me is that when the Americans took over the site, they kind of audited it and realized I was doing practically everything, which wasn't a very good idea. And so appointed Tara as our managing editor, leaving me. I'm the editor-in-chief and obviously involved in all the big decisions.
And you're still very involved. It's not like, I'm out, goodbye. I'm
the chief contributor. I seem to churn out the articles.
You put out a Riesling article yesterday.
But dear Tara has taken all the kind of admin and HR and finance and all that sort of stuff off my shoulders.
And talking about expanding to the US, you're from England, this is where you live. How do you see the US wine drinker and English wine drinker? How are they different?
I think scores seem to be much more important in the US.
In the US, okay.
The Brits, I think, have always been sort of a little bit sceptical about scores, not least because the chief score givers have been American, rather than British.
That's true.
A lot of Brits have adopted scores, but slightly unwillingly. And I've always described scores as a necessary evil.
Okay. Not a fan of scores, but it's necessary.
People like them, and it's quite good discipline when you're tasting something to sort of work out how much you like it. And really, they've been most useful when there have been, say, en primeur offers, which are hot. Everybody wants the wine. They haven't got time to read millions of tasting notes. They just want to see, okay, which are the top
I've been a
scorers.
victim of that too,
Yeah.
buying futures in Bordeaux. It's
Yeah.
just there's a lot out there, and the 2022 Cheval Blanc just absolutely went crazy, and that's where I gravitate towards when I see all the high scores.
Yeah.
So I am a victim of that. But speaking of scores,
Well, I hope you love it.
I hope so too. Speaking of them being necessary evils, you score on a 20-point scale, where in the US
yes.
we're used to 100 points. Can you break down what the 20-point scale is, or?
It's not a question of just multiplying by 5, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
You have to read our thing about what do our scores mean.
Okay.
And we are toiling over coming up with a sort of equivalency, and it's not easy. American scorers quite early on came up with 100 points for their favourite wines. Now, for us, 18 out of 20 is a really good score. And, you know,
Yeah.
we'd score some of our favourite wines 18 out of 20. And my argument is that wine quality is increasing all the time. I'm sure our average scores have gone up
Yes.
over the years. And we've got the leeway for 18.5, 19, 19.5, 20. We do actually have hundreds of 20-point wines on there, but
Okay.
we've got, I think, is it 270,000 tasting notes or something? So they're a minority. But
Yeah.
we've got the headroom to, as wines get better and better, to increase our scores in there. Whereas the people who gave 100 points to a wine made in the 80s are kind of stuck there. Unless, of course, they add another, they say, okay, we're scoring out of 110 now.
Yeah, but it doesn't give you any wiggle room. It's 100 points. And then it becomes more diluted, right? Because if you see hundreds all the time, it's you don't know.
I don't think in hundreds.
Because I've been let down by that.
Really.
And
it's taste, isn't it? I mean, I honestly, I don't believe that there is an objective quality standard. I think we all have our own preferences. We all have different sensitivities to different elements. And, there's no one right or wrong about wine appreciation. And what I try to do is educate people, entertain people, I hope, and allow them, through my information and help, and that of other people, to make their own choices. Mm-hmm. I think that's most important.
Exactly, and at the end of the day, you're catering to your subscribers who are paying you to, see that work. How hard is it today to be independent, right? I think, some critics can be bought, some critics cannot be bought. It's how does that work, especially in a world where so many producers are competing to really show their best?
Yeah.
It must be very difficult.
Well, I think I'm lucky, partly because I don't live in a wine community. I feel sorry for wine writers who live in Napa and kind of go and buy their groceries, with wine producers.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of distant, really, even though the English wine scene has grown enormously. They're all in the country. I'm in London, so I don't see them that often. And I suppose the groundwork was laid when I worked for the Sunday Times, which was very famous for its campaigns, for its absolute objectivity. I suppose, the way the New York Times is very fancy about it, how independent they are. And the Sunday Times was like that.
Okay.
So I was trained, to what extent I was trained.
That's a good point, yeah.
To be extremely objective. And also I think starting out my first few years on a trade magazine were really useful because they taught me how things really were, rather than the consumer journalism experience, which is all flim-flam and, puff and all that kind of thing. And I just think it's your duty to your readers to be objective. And there have been instances. There are people that and over the years, all this time, there have been people that I absolutely love personally, but maybe who import some pretty awful wine.
And you let them know that. I was going to say, have you gotten...
I'm a bit timid. I don't usually say it to their face. I just write it.
Yeah, just write
publish
it.
Which is a bit mean.
You're about to send it in.
I really don't like conflict, personal conflict. So it's a bit cowardly of me just to put it in print.
Has that happened before though, where either a producer or I guess a consumer, but I doubt that would happen, went up to you and was just like, "This is not. How could you?" I'm sure in 50 years of wine writing, some of that has happened.
There was one Bordeaux producer, not at all a well-known one, who insisted on sending me a whole load of wine. Although I did notice that all the good vintages were missing, and I just wrote what I thought on the site, and the person who'd sent it was very upset and said, "You do realise that the owner is very litigious, don't you? You know."
It's
and the wines were so unimportant. I thought the last thing I want is a great big legal bill, so I quite happily did take them off because no one would have noticed them anyway.
Oh my God! Okay, so that's a great story there. Just okay, that's done. And you also have a team in the U.S. based in the U.S. there now. Now that you're
of course, the time difference is our enemy. Especially since the great Sam Cole Johnson, lives in Portland. So
so that's 9 hours.
That's 8 hours.
Eight hours.
Quite enough.
Hours.
And now Richard Hemming, lovely Richard Hemming, fellow master of wine, is getting more and more involved. He was with us, and then he went and ran the wine program at 67 Pall Mall in Singapore. But now he's coming back to us more and more, and he's, I think, 8 hours ahead of us or something, or 7 hours ahead. So it's quite a nightmare having, online meetings with everybody.
Are you an early riser, or are you typing into the night?
No. Okay. I often start at 6. Yesterday morning, Saturday, I was working away at 6.
So you're an early morning.
I'm an early bird.
Always have been.
Yeah,
okay.
And I never work at night. I don't, Night is for enjoying wine.
Exactly, yeah. And speaking of enjoying wine, what is the difference between drinking and tasting?
Massive.
Yeah.
Tasting is when all your faculties are at their most critical. You're looking to, you have to identify faults if they exist. Not necessarily terrible wine faults, but small wine faults. And you've got to, in this day and age, sadly, come up with your score as well as a tasting note.
Yeah.
Whereas drinking wine, you can just relax and enjoy it. And I suppose the difference is you want to maximise the enjoyment when you're drinking, and maybe not maximise it when you're tasting, because you are being critical.
Exactly. Are people scared of drinking with you?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay. Well, we have a lot of friends and we entertain a lot. Nick is a very good cook, and sometimes people say people can be divided into nature's hosts and nature's guests.
Yeah.
And Nick is very much nature's host.
Amazing. Amazing. So lots of good meals. Yeah. You guys cook a lot. But also explore, I guess, restaurants and all that.
Well, he writes about restaurants for jancisrobinson.com. So
amazing.
We have to keep going out.
Perfect.
But he's very faithful to our son, so it's quite difficult for him to shoehorn any restaurant that's not owned by our son into his schedule.
That's amazing. So you guys travel a lot, explore restaurants in a lot of different cities.
Yes. We're lucky. We travel quite a lot together.
Amazing.
And of course, London is a great place to travel from. Very easy to get. We can get the train down, to Paris for the day.
Yeah, I'm taking that train for the first time on Wednesday.
Oh, good.
So,
you'll find it's very effective.
Amazing, great. And speaking about wine producing regions, if we separate New World and Old World, what do you think they can learn from each other?
Oh, I think that Old New World barrier has more or less been broken down. Yeah. Because pretty much all young people from old, so-called, I nowadays prefer to talk about European and non-European, say. Okay. So pretty much all the younger generation of European wine producers deliberately goes outside Europe for a bit of experience as an intern, or working for a friend of their parents or something. So they get a non-European experience. Okay. And more non-European wine producers want to come to the cradle of wine that is Europe. Yeah. And I honestly don't think there is this an old world style and a new world style nearly as much nowadays. Maybe at the bottom end, but even that, I often say with the Master of Wine exam today, I would hate to be given a row of barrel fermented Chardonnays, because if they're all grown in a similar climate, they'll be very, very similar.
Exactly,
actually.
whether it's Australia or Napa.
Cool bits of Australia, Sonoma Coast, Burgundy. That maybe there's an extra savouriness to the Burgundies, but it's not easy.
Yeah, I like that, because when collectors drink, and I'm part of a wine collector group, we love to just compete and say, this is old world, this is new world. We go straight to that. But I think that's a good point where, it's more based on climate and things like that.
Yeah.
And speaking of climate, do you feel that alcohol levels rising is an issue, or is that just a byproduct of creating balance in a wine?
Well, I've seen them, I think, reach a max, and I think wine producers today are more and more conscious that people don't want to drink high alcohol wines, and seem to be finding more and more ways to produce lower alcohol wines. Now, whether that's some California producers' way of actually reducing alcohol by physical means, whether it's adding water, or whether it's picking earlier and training, which is the way we want it, training vines better so that they will ripen at phenolically ripen at lower sugar levels. That's the ideal way.
Exactly, to keep it at that percentage.
And there is the amazing thing that, after a few extremely hot vintages where the wines, I'm thinking of Europe now, where the wines just seemed like Burgundies in, about 2020, suddenly seemed sort of rather sweet and new worldy. Whether it's the vines have got used to hotter weather, but certainly from hotter vintages now, the wines have much more freshness.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's when you feel that freshness and that balance, it's incredible. And then you look at the alcohol percentage, and it can surprise you. But it's all about creating balance. And part of that is also protecting vines that have this experience. You're part of the Old Vine Conference.
We're very, very keen on old vines, and California is a place, isn't it, where there are a lot of old vines, but they're under threat. When I think of the Sideways effect, when the movie Sideways said, oh, Pinot Noir is so much better than Merlot. And there was a great wave of plantings of Pinot Noir, often in areas of California that were too hot for it, really. Yeah. And some lovely old vines were casualties of that. They were pulled out to make way for the fashionable Pinot Noir.
Yeah, you gotta plant what sells is how they saw it, and that's how. And Argentina, we see that as well. Except neighborhoods are being just built on top of where these vines were.
Yes. Well, that's been true. All over the world.
Yeah.
But it's interesting in Argentina, all the going up and up and up.
Yeah,
they seem to have reached a limit, though. I think there are some vineyards which have turned out to be actually just too cool.
Yeah, I think the limit right now is La Carrera, where they're just Richitelli. It makes this Sauvignon Blanc that's just wow. You can taste the altitude in that. They're going very up, and you're also very close with Laura Catena, right? And
yes, we fight. I've convinced Laura, whatever, to reduce her bottle weight. Because that is one of my big campaigns.
That's a huge campaign from Jancis Robinson, which I love, reducing bottle weight. Yeah. Sometimes I pick up these bottles and I'm like, oh my, I don't need to go to the gym.
There is a huge misconception that the weight of the bottle has some relationship to the quality of the wine, which is absolutely not true. And if we need to be measuring our carbon emissions, and wine, the biggest contributor to wine's carbon footprint is production and transport of bottles. And since bottle weight makes not a blind bit of difference to the quality of the wine, it makes sense to use lighter weight bottles. And in fact, first, the fanciest wines of France never used to use heavy bottles. And bottle manufacturers have really got behind it and are now producing good-looking lightweight bottles, because there was a time when a light bottle looked cheap, but they don't anymore. And when we're tasting wines at home for jancisrobinson.com, we always weigh the full bottle and write down the weight, so that we can
and publish it. That's
That's the big first bit of the tasting note.
I think that's going to be a bottle weight isn't interesting, and the issue is the emissions, right? The production of it and the shipping of it. I think it's going to be an issue, at least what I see in the U.S., that's going to take some time to really phase out, because people, I guess, do expect to see the heavy bottles, or they at least feel it's better. Like you said, people.
Well,
feel.
I know it's in South America there is that feeling that
100%.
And the marketing people have played into that. They've deliberately used heavier bottles for their more expensive wines.
And there's nothing that lets you down more than a heavy bottle that tastes.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And also, it's not good for people working in wine. I mean, lifting a case of heavy bottles is a big thing. You know, I don't know how a slim, short female som manages with a big
it's heavy
case full of.
And catering to a younger generation that is thinking about
much
these
more
things
about the long term
is much more important. Yeah. And this is a question I really wanted to come here and ask you. You have kids, right? You talk to young people. What is going on right now in the wine industry? I think there's a lot of headlines, and I honestly don't know what's true and what isn't anymore, because I see headlines that say consumption is at an all-time low. I see people saying people aren't drinking anymore. So what is going on in your opinion?
Well, I mean, the figures don't lie. Total sales are definitely going down of wine. I think the decline has been exaggerated by the COVID bump. During the pandemic, people stayed at home and drank far more than they would have done. Sales really increased during COVID, during the pandemic. And then, so they had only one place to go, which was down. So that slightly exaggerated the rate of decline, I would say. But overall, we are drinking less wine. Most markets, there are very few markets in the world that are still increasing in terms of wine consumption. Maybe India is one.
Yes.
But it's generally, I'd say, it's the cheap stuff, the really cheap stuff that is suffering. You've only got to look at Bordeaux, and they're pulling out wines left, right and centre at the bottom end of the pyramid.
Yes.
At the same time, and there's no doubt, wine contains alcohol, and I certainly don't subscribe to the WHO thing of, every sip is making you more likely to get cancer.
Yeah.
I think that is a misstatement. Mm-hmm. But we have got to be aware that, the liquid that we absolutely adore contains a toxic substance, and we've got to be very careful about
Absolutely.
that. And there is more and more consciousness of wellness, health, and so I do understand there are why more and more people are not drinking at all, partly because of this WHO mismessage. But people just want to be healthy, and young people no longer need to meet other young people by going to a bar. They just go onto their phones.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And you don't need a drink when you're looking at your texting.
Yeah. I was going to ask,
But can I just jump in here?
Go for it.
What is interesting, it seems to me, is that wine-adjacent activities like learning about wine courses, wine tourism, seem to be booming. And I wonder whether that's almost like vicarious wine drinking, that people are wanting to drink less but are no less interested in it.
Yeah, people are really obsessed with learning, I think. People are really, really interested in wine education, and that's why I'm telling you, I see people who aren't in the wine industry go in these classes. But it seems like there's some good things and bad things happening, and in the past 50 years, would these be unprecedented times? Can you compare it to something from the past, or no?
I haven't seen this. No.
Okay.
No. In my professional life, wine has continued to get more and more popular, and until now.
Okay, got it. And with technology, you've seen different technology booms in 2000, starting JancisRobinson.com. Do you feel like this new wave of technology with artificial intelligence, is it going to ruin wine, or is it going to make it better?
Well,
If I can just chat GPT
yeah.
everything.
I mean,
even though it's incorrect sometimes.
I adore writing. I adore words. And the last thing I want is for some machine to take over an activity that I absolutely love. I'm sure it's only a matter of seconds until somebody says, here's a machine that can taste wine better than humans. And I don't look forward to that day. It's going to rob me of one of my great pleasures, apart from anything else.
Yeah, but you're investing a lot in the pleasure of writing through the Jancis Robinson writing competition,
Yeah.
right? And making sure people do continue
That's
to write.
amazing. You see, there's proof that people are really interested in wine. We had this is a wine writing competition we run on the website every summer. So it's about, I think, it's about 10 years or something now. And we had a record number of entries this year, 309.
Wow.
And then people can vote afterwards. So I think we had well over 2,000 people voting.
Okay.
But the quality of what was written, we have a theme each year. They vary. And this year it was an ode to a grape variety. And they were such high quality. I mean, even Hugh Johnson, my co-author of the World Atlas of Wine, who is known for being a brilliant writer, he was so impressed.
Yeah.
Because he helped us judge. And so there you are, you know, the entries may not have been published anywhere else before. They have to be original.
Yeah.
So there were 309 people prepared to devote their, presumably weekends or something, to coming up with a beautiful
That's amazing.
piece.
That's amazing.
And gave us such a lot of pleasure. Yeah. So I think there are a lot of wannabe wine writers out there.
100%. And this competition, the winner, what's the competition
Well, quite
result?
often we end up commissioning pieces from the winners. And they get we're in partnership with the Académie du Vin Wine Library, which publishes an amazing number of books. So the winner got, in fact, we had 2 winners, 3 winners in all, 1 reader's winner, and then the judges, we couldn't decide, so we had 2 winners from the judges. So each of the 3 winners got 20 Académie du Vin Wine Library books, and I think 6 of my very beautiful wine glasses, which I ought to have here instead of just lifting up my mug.
We're drinking tea, black tea. What are your wine glasses?
They're very beautiful, and they're designed by me because a designer came to see me and wanted to produce a range of wine glasses, and I sent him away saying I don't do hardware. But he was so nice and so persistent, and I thought at that stage I had 40 years of experience of tasting wine, and I knew exactly what my perfect wine glass would be like. And I said, there's no need to have more than one design, Richard. Richard Brendan is his name. You only actually, unless you're a somm or a restaurant that wants the kind of aesthetic pleasure of
having
look,
the Pinot glass.
yes, the look of it all. In practice, you only really need one glass, because white wine is no less subtle than red wine. It deserves to have its own pretty big glass. Ditto champagne. You know, all the top champagne producers now, they don't want their wines in a flute. They want it in a wine glass.
No. People don't want that.
Same with port producers. You know, they don't want their wines to be in tiny little things where you can't even get your nose in. So we came up with a very beautiful glass, Richard Brendan and I, and it's had great success. And so there's one mouth blow. It's very, very delicate. It's not delicate, but it's very thin. You know, you're right in touch with the wine.
Great.
And it is so effective at expressing the wine that several Master of Wine candidates deliberately take my glasses into the exam room.
Okay.
There's a testimonial.
Luckily, there's 3 of us here. Is it here? Is the wine glass here?
Yep.
Can we show it?
Sure.
Because we can talk about it, but if someone's watching this, I want them to see the video here.
Well, your water glass is exactly the same bowl as the wine glass.
Ah, okay. I was gonna say I love the thinness of this. It's so here it says on the bottom JRRB.
RB, that's right. So this one does. So that's the wine glass.
Beautiful.
and it is very nice and thin. But the key is
Came a bit late. I mean, you wish you had this.
I know, sorry.
25 years ago.
Yeah. It is expressly made for the dishwasher, because breakages happen when people wash and dry by hand.
Yes, I've chipped this so many times with the sponge.
So this is, and then the hospitality business asked us, could we have a machine-made one, because waiters aren't quite as, you know.
Yeah, things are happening.
And so we recently launched, this is called the Original, with the mouth-blown one.
Okay.
And then there's one called Precision, which is for the hospitality business.
Amazing, and it's the same shape idea.
Exactly the same, just slightly heavier, very slightly thicker.
Great, thank you for showing this.
No,
and
well, thank you for asking.
I want to end with some easier questions, I guess. But if you weren't doing wine, what do you think you would be doing?
I'd hope I'd be writing.
Writing.
Well, when I was looking for a job just before being taken on as assistant editor of a wine trade magazine, I'm equally interested in food as wine, and I might have ended up, I suppose, writing about food.
Oh, amazing. Well, you got Nick doing that as well now. With and then any regions that, I know you've traveled a lot, but any regions you haven't been to that you're really wanting to visit?
Well, we have a great Italy editor in Walter Speller who lives in Italy, which means that I hardly ever get to go to Italy, and we both
Such
love
a great
Italy.
wine producing country.
So there are far too many Italian wine regions I haven't been to. Well, I've not been to.
Been to Piemonte?
And Piemonte, Tuscany, Sicily.
All the ones.
Even Calabria, actually, and Lazio. But I'm sure I'm way out of touch. Haven't been to the Adriatic coast for a very long time.
Okay. You love the Aglianico?
I love Aglianico.
Okay,
So Campania. Been to Puglia, but the wines are a little bit too alcoholic for me usually.
Is that
Puglia.
Primitivo? Is that what you find there?
Yeah.
So which would be
Zinfandel,
compared there?
Where else?
Been to Margaret River?
Oh yeah.
I've wanted to go.
Oh, you must. Yes. I've been there quite a few times, and I loved it so much that what I wrote about it was so enthusiastic that I think the tourist board used it for quite a long time.
I was honest. It was
China,
honest
been to China, several Chinese wine regions, Japan.
I heard about
India.
In Hokkaido, there's like some Japanese Pinot kind of growing in popularity.
Yes, and Etienne de Monti has a vineyard there from Burgundy.
Okay. I've not tasted a lot. I did my honeymoon there, but we didn't go to the. We went south. We didn't go north there. And then your go-to white grape, red grape.
Well, Riesling. It's got to be Riesling. It's always Riesling because it's so expressive and ages so well, and all that.
Great.
I haven't really got a favourite red. I like Aglianico, but there's just such a choice, isn't there?
Yeah.
Sorry.
And no. And then my last question for you is where do you see the future of wine going? Are you optimistic or are you pessimistic about the wine world?
I'm very optimistic about the quality. I just think there is just more and more great wine being made, and it is such a pleasure that I can't see. Surely it's going to survive. And it's such a cultural thing.
Yeah.
And people in wine are so nice.
Yeah.
Surely.
It's hard to leave an industry like this, no matter what, no matter how hard it is. It's very hard because it pulls you in, and the friendships you make, the relationships. But the quality is high. People always say it's been around for 8,000 years. It's not going anywhere.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And that's the most important thing. So, Jancis, thank you so much.
Thank you
for your time. This was very enjoyable, and stay tuned. Thank you.